Okay, so sorry for that a little bit of a hiccup because I wanted to see the audience and I'm unable to see the audience now. But it's okay. So like I said, we'll interact with through the chat. I have some other interaction lined up as well. But if you see any technical errors and all, just please on your microphone and let me know. Now, okay, so I assume from what I've asked earlier, no one knows what Maslow is. I am not an expert of Maslow's fourth tier. I treat this session as just truly just a sharing session of what I have read and a knowledge and a bit of application in class. Now, it's not always that you get a chance to apply this theory, but it is if knowing it will allow you to utilize it at a certain point when the opportunity appears. Now, of course, let's start by it's good that nobody knows what Maslow is, so that means you're going to pick up something today. So let's go on. Short video for you guys to see something a bit interesting on what is Maslow hierarchy of needs. A very short video, quite a nicely presented one.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a theory in psychology. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a theory in psychology. It argues that there are 5 stages of human needs that motivate our behavior. Abraham Maslow proposed his theory in 1943 after studying what he called exemplary people, such as Albert Einstein or Eleanor Roosevelt. First, there are physiological needs, such as the need to breathe, eat, drink, or sleep. The moment we get enough of that and we feel awake and our bellies are full, we get motivated by the next thing. Now we want safety. We try to earn money, build up resources, and look for shelter that protects us against dangers. Once we are satisfied and feel safe, we have time to think about what we want next. At stage 3, we seek love and belonging. We desire to be close to family and friends, belong to a society, or join a gang. But the moment we feel completely part of a group, we already wish to be a little different than the rest. At stage 4, we look for esteem, self-confidence, and respect from our peers. We want to be someone. If we have money, we buy a fancy watch. If we have a brain, we write or think or work a lot. Motivation to perform and compete is now at its highest. Students, sportsmen, and inventors excel. Neil Armstrong even flew to the moon. Only if we breathe and drink and eat and sleep enough, and we feel safe and part of a group and still special, only then can we reach level 5, self-actualization. Now we can relax, be creative, accept facts for what they are, give back or do whatever we want. No more pressure, unless of course there is trouble below. If you are a leader and believe in the theory, use it. First, make sure everyone has eaten well. Then make them feel safe and help them belong to a group. Once they feel they belong, they are ready to stand out and excel. Thanks for watching. Even if we try to keep it short, each video is quite some work. First, we research and write a script. Then we brainstorm ideas. And after that, we draw the storybook. Then it's recorded, narrated, and finally edited. If you want to support us to make more videos on learning and education, visit patreon.com/sprouts. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a theory.
All right. Okay. So that introduces Maslow's theory. So essentially, it's always visualized as a pyramid, and it's something that goes. It's a progressive stage. That's how we look at it. So 4 stages. This is the way we look at it. So I'm giving a very brief introduction to Maslow's, and then we try to focus on each. I will also introduce each of the stage very briefly. Our focus here will be the 4th tier, which is esteem, and how we can focus on esteem and link it to behavioral issues that we have in class, as well as how we can boost esteem, which then is connected to motivation, and hopefully we're able to get the students to the goal will be to draw success out of it, to drive students towards success. But it's a fast stretch. Success is a fast stretch, but the journey is a good one. So there are four stages, so as you can see on the slide. So the four stages, the bottom most is physiological, followed by safety, love, belonging, and then comes esteem. And of course, the highest part, the self-actualization, will be the peak of it, the end of it. So it says that we according to Maslow, we don't feel anything. This is what Maslow said. We don't feel anything when the needs are met, but anxiety will kick in when they are not. For example, hunger. All right. So if you have had a good meal, normally, when you have fulfilled your hunger, it's sort of the end of it, that it doesn't end up with a motivation to do more of it. For example, if you are hungry, you will go for food. Once you have finished eating, it doesn't motivate you to eat more, right? It's sort of like you fulfill the need, and it sort of ends there. It doesn't result in a boost of motivation. But these needs, if you don't meet them, it can impede your abilities. For instance, simple ability to concentrate in class. That's why all over the world, breakfast meal programs in school has been introduced, because there's enough solid research that has proven that a hungry student will not be able to concentrate. A student who's, because these are your needs, right? That in the hierarchy, when you meet your physiological needs, then your body will enable your ability to concentrate better. So this is one of the findings. His theory also shows that when you are craving physiological safety, belonging, and esteem needs, which is the four stages at the bottom, we become distressed. There's a negative impact when you're deprived of these needs, but there is no impact when they are met. Now, that's the part that you really have to try to understand. I repeat that, yeah? So there is a negative impact when you're deprived, but there is no impact when they are met. Okay? So you can analyze yourself, right? So you're hungry, or you're really tired, you need to sleep. So these are your physiological needs. But when you met them, it does not result in a booster feeling. I mean, it doesn't result in you wanting to do more of it until the cycle of hunger returns again, right? So according to Maslow, in his research in 1962, he concluded that we simply avoid unpleasant feelings or responses. That's it. We are designed that way. We are designed to avoid unpleasant feelings or responses. So now let's take it to the next level. So if you look at it, we are looking at two types of needs, right? So you can categorize, and this is it's very easy when you categorize it. You have deficit needs, and then you have growth need. Now, recalling back the pyramid that we looked at earlier, so there are 5 stages, right? The 4 stages at the bottom will be what we call as a deficit need. I'll define it shortly. So what we call as a deficit need. The top tier of Maslow's pyramid is where behavior and motivation sort of sits. Okay, that's where they sort of revolve. The fifth stage is what we call a self-actualization, as you have seen earlier. This is the lone motivator that Maslow labeled as a growth need. A growth need is it works like this, yeah? A growth need is when you have, okay, the need is there, right? So when you have met it, it will end up motivating you to seek for more, right? That's a growth need. Like, for instance, you prepare for a good class, for instance, right? Like, this is just an example. You go in and you put in the effort, and then you finish the class, and all your students were beaming with, happiness, and they enjoyed the lesson. They come and they tell you that, miss, I've learned so much today. Oh, the lesson was so much fun. And then they go home and they talk about it, and more people come and tell you, hey, we're all talking about your class. What did you do? And so on. So you have fulfilled a certain need in you, right? You need to have conducted a really good lesson. And what happens then is you get motivated. You want to do, okay, my next lesson, I'm going to be even better. If you notice, that's what we call as a growth need. It doesn't happen to the physiological safety or love and belonging, because when these needs are met, they often don't you don't end up seeking for more until the cycle begins again. So that's the meaning of growth need and a deficit need, which means that energy that is presented as anxiety when seeking fulfillment at the lower four levels converts to actions to improve oneself at the top level. See, the top level is when you try to improve yourself because you want more. That would be a growth need. All right. So do stop me and question me if you are not very clear of what am I saying. Right? If I'm not being very clear. Just for the record, this is the first time ever I'm delivering this workshop. You guys are my hamster badge. Okay, I'm testing this workshop on you, and of course I intend to speak to more people about this workshop in the future. All right, so moving on. Let's talk about these first three tiers because we are focusing on the fourth tier, right? So we want to briefly just understand how this first three tiers play out in our school. All right, so in the context of school, of course, Maslow's theory is general, it's open to all, but we are looking at it in the context of our school. So physiological stage tier 1, right? Tier 1 or stage 1. Physiological needs. It's very important to remember how powerful these physiological needs are. All right, students who are hungry, sleep deprived are not cognitively open to learning. It's not like they don't choose to learn. Their brains and bodies simply make it extremely difficult to do so. Now, of course, there are students who will claim that, no, I function better this way. Well, maybe they've been doing it long enough that their body have adapted, but it's simply not at optimum, and we cannot generalize by saying, therefore, because a bunch of students are able to pay attention in class while being hungry and sleep deprived, we cannot generalize to say all students will be able to do so. But it is easier to generalize that when you don't meet your physiological needs, such as hunger and sleep deprivation, which means you are not going to be cognitively open to learning. You may force yourself to it, but that's not something you are going to be finding easy to do. Okay, so that will be physiological need. That will be tier 1. So it's very important that these stages need to be met. Hence, we give morning break. We encourage students to eat breakfast. And in some countries, including Malaysia, there's a breakfast program where students are given breakfast. Those who can't afford to do so are actually supplemented, given like supplement food programs and so on. So this is derived from this research all over the world, and we recognize that. Tier 2. Tier 2 will be safety. Protection from elements, security, order, law, stability, freedom from fear. This means predictability, which means, when there is a certain amount of predictability in one's life, it gives them that safety net feeling, all right? So control in their lives, emotional security, social stability are all impacted in this area. So family and schools, okay, so when we look at it as family and schools, are essentially the entities that can fulfill these needs, So you see, a student life, they would spend a large amount of time at home, and then they're at school. Sometimes, if their parents are busy, they tend to spend more time in the school and more time with the school community, which, whether they acknowledge it or not, becomes an integral part of their life. Whether they like it or not, they are there every day in the school. So we have the ability to fulfill this tier 2 for them. Tier 1 is obviously fulfilled by their parents, right? By providing them with food and all that. Tier 2, we play a huge role in providing them that. That's why when we don't pay attention, when a student is, for instance, are not receiving this tier 2 in your classroom, maybe because of certain issues, they don't feel safe in the class, for instance, because of individuals in the school and so on, then it's serious, because you're looking at tier 2 need is not being fulfilled, and don't expect the student to be functioning at tier 5, where tier 5 is where a student will be driven to success, and when tier 2 itself is not met. So what I think in speaking of our school environment and so on, I think it's safe to say we are all looking into this already. Whether you you all look out for it, right? You look out for student that might have conflict in class, You look out for issues like this, a student who withdrawn and so on. You might not have this knowledge of Maslow at all, but you are already looking out for this, right? You do ask students if you, hey, I didn't see you eating lunch. Aren't you hungry and so on? So we are already doing these things, but now you know the theory behind it, and now you know you have got research backing to what you're doing. Okay, so that's tier two. So school and teachers, we play a huge role in this. Tier two. Tier three, love and belonging needs. Okay, so the first two, which is the physiological and safety needs, when this is met, the next stage, which is tier three, will then concentrate on social interaction and a feeling of belonging. You see, this is something that we evolved. We are what I would say. If you observe the animal kingdom, there are solitary animal, and then there are animals that live in packs. So I think I would like to say humans that would be animals that live in packs, right? Because we need inclusion, all right? So exclusion doesn't work for us. We naturally avoid isolation. Of course, not going into the realm of whether you are an introvert or extrovert. Even introverts at some point still need to spend time with some people that they're close with. So this is very important, all right? This level is more directly connected to the stage 4 rather than compared to your physiological and safety need. Tier 3 is more solidly linked to esteem, which is the focus of what we're going to talk about today. All right. So besides their family, students often experience feelings of belonging at school, which means their classmates, teachers, friendship groups, sports teams, even sports team like the Rumah Sukan that we have for them, plays a part. All right. So generally, students who are missing love and belonging in their home lives can actually get some of this need fulfilled in the school. Of course, they are receiving it at home. That means it's being fulfilled. But if at all it's imperfect at home, these needs can be met in school, in an educational social setting. We can provide this. So we can accomplish this quite easily, by putting some thoughts in the seating arrangements in class, peer partner group. The goal is overall, we want to give them a sense of caring and compassion, that the school care about them, that the teachers do take interest in the student beyond their identity of learners. And that's very important. I don't know about everybody here, but I think I would be at times when we are pressured about results, when we are pressured about grades, which we always do. This is my third educational organization that I'm working for, and in Heritage Eagles. I mean, JJ has so many schools under it, right? Last time we had a school in Batu Pahat as well. So and being in my previous life with Harry Ward, I had chance to go over different schools to talk to different types of teachers. Everywhere, it's the common theme. When we get pressured for grades, which becomes our KPI, we tend to walk into the class looking at students in the filter of performance. We do, right? We tend to categorize them as, okay, good students. This is really weak. I need to do something about these weak students. We need to give them more work. I'm constantly thinking about how can I, get them to do more work, get them to revise, get them to meet me and ask questions and so on. But in that cloud of that, we may overlook that taking interest in students outside the identity of learners would actually fulfill certain belonging needs. They would feel that the teacher actually cares about me more than, and if they are deficient of that, this tier 3, you would be fulfilling it without knowing it. And I know some of you here that have personally worked with you, like even though you don't belong to Eagles, like I know Mr. Justin. I think Mr. Justin, sorry, I'm picking on you. Mr. Justin is a naturally, if you all know him personally, like I have known him personally, his natural attitude is caring. He cares about his students and he speaks to them almost at peer level. And Mr. Justin, I don't know if you knew you were fulfilling this tier 3 of Maslow.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I know some teachers in my school who does that as well. I'm unable to see participants, so I'm not really sure. Okay, let me see participants who's here. You know, I know Mr. Karthik does that. Ms. Liang does that. And Miss Shanti, yes, Miss Shanti as well. So um, now you all know that probably it is in your character, so you do it with ease. But like for people like me, whose brain is all about analytics and so on, I need to actually take an effort to learn this, and then I need to go in and do it with an objective that I know. Okay, when I take an interest about the student to be beyond their identity as a learner, I would be fulfilling their psychological needs, the tier 3 need. Okay, so this would be important to know. That takes us to tier 4. All right, so that takes us to tier 4, which is focusing on esteem. So before that, I just thought let's do a quick poll. I just want to know, what would the word esteem mean to you? I'm not asking you to define it for me. All right, I just want to know what it is. What does it mean to you as a teacher? What would it mean to you as in your classroom when you associate the word esteem to a student? So of course you can try to keep it brief, because this is it's a word cloud, which means the words will appear and we'll see which word is being used the most. So you want to keep your answers short. And all right, I think yes. Okay, self-worth. All right, so it's already appearing to you, or to your students. What would you how would you not define, like associate with the word esteem in your class? Care, yes, very good. There's no right or wrong answer here, by the way, because in real world application, like what I've already been talking about, most of you have already been delivering to the need of students at those various tiers without even having the knowledge to do so, right? Because we all didn't know about Maslow. It's for me, it's a recent knowledge that I gained when I was reading and and I started researching more into Maslow. Yes. Okay, so the size of respect is more bigger than the rest, is because more of you have actually said the same word. So you would look at esteem as respect um, of yourself and of the student. Can I get someone to speak up? Anyone who actually wrote respect? Um, can you put it in context for all of us here, in terms of your classroom? When we say a student esteem, how does the word respect link to it? Anyone? No right and wrong answer. No right and wrong answer. I'm merely trying to get all of us to sort of see how we view our class of students through the lens of each other. And we have so many here with different backgrounds. I think Miss Miss Shalini, you with the JJ, right? Miss Shalini handles our preschool students, right? So
Yes, I'm from
yeah,
JJ.
so you have the toughest punch to handle among all of us, right? You're handling preschool kids. So I think in your case, Miss Shalini, how do you think the word esteem would play out in your class? What do you think?
Uh, for me, is to teach students to learn from their own mistake,
Mm,
whatever mistake that they make,
mm, mm.
to teach them to do it in a correct way. That
Correct,
is the greatest challenge.
correct, correct. All right. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to weigh in on this? To link up esteem, like how would you view esteem among your students, or how do you think esteem would be linked to the success of your student in your class? Anybody else? Miss Kelly. Sorry, I'm picking. If you don't want to say anything, you just say sorry. I don't want to say anything. Okay. So Or Miss Pearly?
Hi, can you hear my background noise?
No, I
They're
don't. I
trimming
cannot.
trees. They're trimming trees downstairs, so can really hear the noise.
No, can't
It's
hear the
well
noise actually.
filtered.
It's
It's well filtered out.
Okay, so sorry, the question is to answer the one that I typed, or is what does esteem means?
yeah, yeah. You can. I mean, you can share what you think about it.
Oh, okay. So for me, I type value. So it's how the student is being viewed at, and also more related to self-esteem,
Mhm.
their value in themselves. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Very good. Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Billy. Okay, so let's move on with this. Now, fourth year, we are now going to talk about esteem itself. Now, esteem, first of all, it was um, earlier assumptions about student demotivation was sort of debunked when Maslow's theory was applied. Okay, the truth about esteem is it is a deficit need. A lot of people think that when I give you a boost of esteem, you will go around seeking for more. Remember, like hunger being a deficit need, when you fulfill your hunger, I don't know about y'all. You know, when for example, this used to happen to me when you're watching TV, right? Then you're hungry. Then there's this KFC advertisement comes out. It looks so delicious, but the same ad, when you watch it, when you just had a full stomach of meal, right? And you're so full, when you look at that KFC, you feel like, what do we say in Malay? We'll say muak, jelak, that kind of thing. So you feel like, okay, you don't get appetized by it, right? When you look at the KFC ad, that's because you've fulfilled your deficit need, which is the hunger. And see what happens with esteem. It is the same. It's a deficit need. So it's logical, right? When you think about hunger as a deficit need, even sense of love and belonging are deficit need. When you feel loved in your family, you don't go out looking for more love, in the sense that you don't go looking out for more. You become fulfilled by it. These are understood to be deficiency needs. But how is esteem? So it used to be a misconception. They used to think that esteem belongs to the self-actualization, which sort of drives itself. Self-actualization is when you do something, and then the outcome of it motivates you to do more. You want more, like in our line of work and success and so on. So they used to think esteem works like that. So when you boost someone's esteem, or when something happens in your class and you do actions that would boost their esteem, students will look for more. And no, that's not how it works. Okay, which leads us to a very large conclusion, which means motivation is triggered by negative feelings that lack of esteem generates. So I repeat, motivation triggered by negative feelings that lack of esteem would generate. Okay, so that's a very important thing to understand. I know it's not that easy to understand immediately. Hence, I created this flowchart to try to help you understand. So when you look at esteem, it's a deficit need. So when you are in a situation that you lack esteem, it triggers negative feelings, which then can create motivation. And that motivation, if you follow the motivation and you actually take action on the motivation, it could lead to positive feelings, which then may lead to an increase in your esteem. All right, so you can see how motivation comes in play here. So lack of esteem do lead to negative feelings, but it is also found that negative feelings could lead to motivation rather than high esteem. So last time, what do you think? If I boost your esteem, you will become motivated to do more. Isn't that what we think? But that's not what research has found. Maslow has proven that esteem is a deficit need, which means the moment you hit high esteem, you will actually not be motivated to do more of what will boost your high esteem. Now this is supposed to be the aha moment. This is supposed to be because it debunks what you used to believe, because that's what happened to me, because I felt like, oh, okay, so if I really understand high esteem, that means your action of consistently trying to boost someone's esteem may not necessarily push them towards doing more for themselves. But it's very important to understand how can we help student esteem, and how can we move them into the motivational zone where they can actually go up to the self-actualization, meaning they start moving towards success. So esteem needs, two types of needs. Okay, so Maslow, he identified two categories within the esteem stage. So one is esteem for oneself, or what we call simply as self-esteem, and two is esteem from others. Okay, so when we say esteem for others, the second type is the one that he claimed in his research from 1987. He claimed that it is the type that includes reputation and respect, that is the most important for children and adolescents. That to him, out of these two esteem category, esteem from others is the one that is the most important for children and adolescents. For us adults, we tend to gravitate more towards self-esteem, dignity, achievement, mastery, success. These are the things that we tend to focus on as our esteem needs. But for children, adolescents, so our primary school kids and our even your our kindy students, our kids in the kindy, same thing. They tend to derive their esteem needs from others. So it's very important that you understand this. So the desire for respect is established before true self-esteem is developed. Okay, so this is actually a finding, quite recent finding. This is a 2020 research by a guy called MacLeod. Now MacLeod found that the desire for respect is established before true self-esteem is developed, which means your student is in your class, right? Constantly built with the desire that my classmates should respect me, my teacher should respect me. That desire is there, and that desire is their esteem need, which means, in a nutshell, we can say when these needs are met, your student develop the self-esteem. So the need to be respected by others will have a direct impact on their willingness to take risk in the classroom. And willingness to take risk in classroom is very, very classic. I think nobody goes to class and you're the only one who's speaking. You're always asking your students to answer some questions, right? You always say, okay, someone please say something. I do that a lot, and because I crave this human interaction, right? Which is one of the reasons why we all pick this job, isn't it? And I tend to encourage students to speak, even if they're going to give me wrong answers, because I say the wrong answers will be very interesting to discuss upon, and from there we try to build the correct answers. And even being as open as that, when I was teaching in the university, it sometimes can get very difficult to get students to speak. Usually I will get a few who will speak, but this few is always the one that speaks, which means these are the students that has the willingness to take risk in the class, because their need to be respected is higher than the others. Now you see, you work it the other way, because if you don't have this knowledge, what will you say? You will say, oh, these are the students who have better self-esteem compared to the one that is not answering. No, these are the students who's always trying to take risk to answer the question, is because these students have a desire to be respected by others simply greater, which means they do have esteem issues. May not seem so, right? Because they're always trying to speak up. Okay, so if a student's status is vulnerable, right? Vulnerable, which means they are so afraid that their esteem will be damaged, they are very likely to engage. Okay, they will not engage an activity that will prevent their esteem needs from being met, which means it's a double-edged sword. Right? If it's at the same time, right, like when the students say, okay, I have this desire to be respected, so I'm going to be always taking the questions that the teacher's going to throw to me. At the same time, if your line of questioning is in such a way that they feel, okay, I'm going to answer Mr. Mohan's question now, but if I get it wrong, he's going to insult me. If I get it wrong, he's just going to be coldly moved to another student, and the others will think that I am dumb. You know what? I'm not even going to try. That's what I meant by a double-edged sword, right? So if you don't set it up right, they will not participate. Their willingness will not be there simply because it is an event that will prevent their esteem needs from being met. Okay, so but you see, a student that already have established reputation, right? Like these guys have established their reputation. They command a huge amount of respect. They would normally bounce back. All right, like even if they get insulted, they give a wrong answer, and then you say, "Hey, what? Like, such a weird answer. Where you get this answer? It's so funny." And then we make fun of the students. So everybody laughs, and the students also laugh. But normally the students can bounce back, because they know why they already established the respect from others. They know that you all can laugh at me. I'm gonna be fine. All right, but otherwise we say this: if the student does not have the ability to bounce back, it lowers their social status in the class. When it lowers their social status in class, it can work in reverse. Their willingness to take risk will reduce. Okay, so we can do this. We can recognize a student care more about what others think about them more than their own success. Meaning, right, when you ask that question, a student is afraid to attempt, not because of the question itself, not because the student is afraid that they'll get it wrong. They are not attempting is because they are so worried about what others in that class will think about them. And I think we all know this, right? So this is esteem stage that you are noticing. This is tier 4 that is in play in your class every time you ask that question. See, we've been doing it all along without even knowing this, right? But this is what's at play. All right. So, adults often try to divert children's attention from their need for respect, okay, to being content with themselves, right? Like when you say, like for instance, if you have a kid in your home or your child, or your nieces or nephews, and it tells you, my classmates are always making fun of me, that's another way of them telling my classmates don't respect me, right? So what we do, we always tell them, ignore them, you're perfect, and we try to make them feel content with themselves. But it doesn't work. It is not always effective. You know why? Because the desire to be accepted by others precedes self-confidence. Precedes. All right? It precedes. It doesn't feed into each other. Not effective. When you do that, of course, we naturally do that. We tell, ignore them, you are fantastic, you're great, and so on. It's not effective. You need to know that. You know why? Because the desire to be accepted by others will precede self-confidence. But doesn't mean that you stop doing that, but it means you need to do more than that. So if you are a teacher in the classroom, you can do more than that. You always can do more than what a parent at home can do, right? You can just tell, don't worry about your classmates and so on. Of course, some parents might take additional steps, try to contact you and tell, my child is not so comfortable in the class. It looks like some classmates are making fun of them. That's when you need to use this knowledge of yours and try to design something in class that can elevate their social status. Because remember, it's a need. It's an esteem need for respect from others, need for acceptance. And if they feel like they're rejected by others, keep in mind your tier 2 or tier 3 itself not met, right? Because remember the safety tier, the tier of belonging, it becomes a need that you have to fulfill. All right, okay, let's move on. I want y'all to, this is a video, all right? So what I want y'all to say, of course, this one is you can say verbally. You can on your microphone and say, what can you say about the student's behavior now that you have this knowledge, Maslow's knowledge that I've introduced? What can you say about this particular student? Very short video.
Caleb, cool it. Okay, everyone, I need you to get your papers out from yesterday. Those need to be on your desk. Caleb, If you do not have yours out, that will be a 0 for this assignment. Caleb, I am not going to play these games with you today. Pick up the paper or go to the office. Pick it up. Caleb, I don't know what your problem is, but you will not be disruptive in my class. Do you understand what I'm saying?
What y'all looking at?
That's it. To the office. Out.
Okay, so what can you say about this? You can put it in the chat. Yeah, you can put it in the chat. Oh, sorry, I'm just seeing Justin saying, oh, Karthik, thanks for responding earlier. Sorry, I'm just seeing the chat. Could the arrow go the other direction? We'll come back to that. Are you talking about this part, Justin?
Yeah, that's the one.
So you're talking about the arrow, which arrow?
Like it's going clockwise, now we go like anti-clockwise, like you go from self-esteem and then it provides the positive feeling that they get motivated.
Yeah, but according to Maslow, that doesn't happen because you see, esteem being classified as a deficit need, right? When you hit the high esteem, it doesn't contribute further to positive feelings. That was Maslow's discovery. That high esteem is when it goes in that anti-clockwise direction, it becomes that final stage, self-actualization, which means it becomes a motivator. It becomes something that will boost you to do more so that you get a bigger success. But unfortunately, the discovery is high esteem. Esteem does not do that because the moment you hit your esteem level that you are seeking, it's a deficit need. Just like hunger, it ends right there. It doesn't boost you to do more.
So it means that it needs to be continually fed though.
Yes, correct. It becomes a need. So just like
Endless
hunger,
food.
yes, it becomes a continuous, just like your other deficit needs, just like hunger, it becomes something that you do continuously need. So you have to be in the environment that it's continuously feeding. You know,
Okay.
and that's why Maslow is pointing out to us in our classroom environment. It's quite important that we remember this. Now, speaking of this student, right? What can y'all can on your mic or say it, or you can put it in the chat. What can you say about this student's behavior? He's obviously being disruptive of the class, but what else can you point out?
I think the disrespectful attitude goes both ways because the teacher was also super confrontational. Maybe this is not the first time. And
That's
so
true. Correct.
she was also pretty hostile actually. So yeah.
No, very good, Mr. Justin and Mr. Karthik. Mr. Karthik has responded in the chat. That's natural first observation we make, right? Now let's think about in terms of the need of the student. Do you think the student has walked into the class with certain needs that is obviously not met? He came to the room already upset, which the teacher may not recognize. That's true. But I want you all to, I'm trying to divert your attention to his dressing. Do you notice he's very differently dressed up compared to his classmates? He's got style factor on him. Do you realize that? His hat, he's got a diamond earring, and he has got accessory on, and he obviously dressed up for the occasion, right? Like as in like if he hated school so much and he's so reluctant to show up to the school, do you think he would have taken an effort to dress himself up that way? I don't think so. You know why? Because this guy here, he wants respect from others. He wants his classmates to look up to him. He may not be academically inclined. So when he walks into an academically inclined class, to a teacher's class who's very zeroed in on knowledge, skill, ability, performance, he automatically feel a sense of the need, the belonging need is not met there. He's already out of place. So as a result, he behaves disrespectful. And Mr. Justin, you're totally right in pointing out, as well as Miss Kaylee. And the teacher that do not think about these layers will respond very superficially obviously, it doesn't matter. You may be upset with something else on the outside. You walked into my class, you better show respect. And sending him out of the class that way has completely sealed the fact that his esteem needs were not met. Which means as long as you don't meet the esteem needs, being a deficit needs, keep in mind, you cannot push him to the next tier, which is what we all strive for, right? We want success from our students, and that will be the final tier in Maslow, and that's not going to happen. So okay, let's move on. One more video. I will show you all one more video. Can you all observe in this video? This is another video, all right? Case study of Tim. I want you all to spot something specific in this video. The moment he gets picked by a teacher to answer a question, I want you to spot his reaction, immediate reaction. Yeah, it's very subtle, so you have to pay attention. And I want you to also think what else the teacher could have done differently. Okay.
Okay, can everyone please put their books under their desk? Silent reading is over. Arms folded, sit up straight.
Tim is a 9-year-old boy in grade 4. He lives with his mum, dad, and his 15-year-old brother. He loves reading books and watching movies. Tim is a competent student who is very attentive in class, but his teacher is a little concerned about his behaviour.
So we grab the reader's attention. Okay, Tim, what do you think would be the next thing that we would need to write in an exposition? What kinds of things would you put after you'd written an interesting title? Where would you go from there?
I don't know.
Okay, does anyone think they can help Tim out? Georgia?
Well, we need to talk.
Okay, at this stage, right? See, who can share what did you spotted? The student and, of course, the teacher. What happened when Tim was picked for question?
I'm going to say the struggle is real because this is so real.
It's so real, right? Yes.
Oh, no.
And just
It's like,
just to
yeah,
clarify, the
because
teacher didn't do anything wrong in this video.
yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I've been in this position a lot.
Also, the school wants everyone to participate in
Precisely.
class. There's a pressure to like
Correct.
the success, like the teacher's success level is being measured by, oh, you got full participation.
Precisely. That's the pressure on us, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yes.
Trigger.
Correct. Correct. Very true. Someone wanted to say something. I heard another voice just now.
Oh yeah, it's me, Pearly.
Yeah, Pearly, go ahead, Pearly.
Yes. I think he like took a deep breath before answering or something like that. Is that one of signs?
Yes, correct. One sign. And did you notice he looked left and right? I want you all to spot that. We'll see.
Okay, Tim, what do you think would be the next thing that we would need to write in an exposition?
He looks left. He looks to the right.
What kinds of...
What was he doing? He's looking at his classmates. That's exactly where the esteem needs is kicking in. He's unwilling to answer, but he answers. You see, he doesn't know the answer, but he's not so much focused on the question or the fact that he doesn't know the answer, but he looked around and he knows that his classmates are watching him, and he said he doesn't know, right? Which means he still spoke up. It's not like he just kept quiet. He still spoke up. But looking around is a gesture because he's trying to see that, okay, this is the moment where I'm going to an opportunity to gain respect. But he doesn't know the answer. But he recognizes the fact that this is an opportunity to gain respect. Is the very reason he looked around. You know, normally if the teacher asks, and I'll just look at the teacher and say, I don't know. It's just between me and the teacher, right? But you see, kids, they do this. They know that their friends are looking. So that's, this teacher has created an opportunity for this student to elevate his social status in class, because remember, it's an esteem need. How others view me, how others going to whether they respect me or not, is going to be created in the child's mind. And what happens is he says don't know.
Of things would you put after you'd written an interesting title? Where would you go from there?
I don't know.
Okay. Does anyone think they can help?
Okay, you see, the teacher does what I think most of us do, which is not a bad thing, right? We say, okay, does anyone else want to help Tim? And we feel like that's not a bad thing, right? We are not scolding Tim. We are not putting him in a bad spot. We are saying, you know what, someone else wants to help. But you see, when you do that, you took that opportunity to fulfill his esteem needs. You took it away. That's an opportunity for success that you took away from him, and you pass it to someone else. And this is what the research proves, that it doesn't help the student feel better. That did not help the student's esteem. So I've got more on that shortly. So let's move on to that. Let's go away from this video. Okay. So this is just another flowchart so that we can, see like sort of how it plays out, right? So there's a need to be respected, which tend to feed into their willingness to take a risk in classroom, okay? And assume they do take that risk to actually speak out and say, take that risk of answering. It could be a successful attempt or an unsuccessful attempt, which is in Tim's case, it's unsuccessful because he said he didn't know. And the teacher took away that opportunity from him, which is quite natural, right? We don't want to dwell more on the child because we don't want to stress out the child. So if the attempt is successful, it generates a high self-esteem. And this may open up more opportunities that student might be willing to engage in activity further. But if a student's status is vulnerable, what do we mean by vulnerable status? Is a student who has very high need to be respected but doesn't want to try out because they're so afraid that they will fail and they will not be respected. They will be very less likely to engage in activity at the same time. You see, this is why it's very, very delicate that you have to try to understand. So the need to be respected plays a direct role in their willingness. Okay, so we have to understand, we recognize students tend to care more about what others think about them than their own success. This is something I've already said earlier. Okay, so this is something I've mentioned earlier. So this is just a flowchart to try to re-establish that. What time are we supposed to end? Yeah, sorry. What time are we supposed to end this session? Anyone with an idea?
It'll be 3:30, I think.
3:30, right? Okay, so I forgot that we were given an hour, or we were given how long? Okay.
Actually, 3:15. It's wait, 3:30. I think like half an hour to get ready, right? I think.
Is it? It's 3:15, right?
Okay, then I'll skip this.
Written in the
2:15 to 3:15. Yeah, correct.
3:15. Okay, that means
Mr. Mohan, it's actually 3, but you can take more than 3. Yeah,
right,
it's
I'll
okay.
skip this part. This is the part I wanted I wanted everyone to share some of your experiences, but that's okay. I'll move away from this so I can finish. There's only 3 strategies. I will just quickly share these 3 strategies that you can try to use in your class. The strategies are simple. When you do ask questions to the students, you allow them to undercommit. Okay, you allow them to undercommit, meaning you give them an opportunity to save their face. That's the idea. Which means you give an out upfront, which means you allow the student to say to sort of filler, like you give a sentence, it is not because of what. You just say, okay, I don't know this because I haven't seen it. You encourage students to say so. You can say that, oh, this is the question. You can choose to say, I don't know because I've never heard of it. I don't know because I never came across of it, but I would like to know more about it. You create that kind of opportunity. All right. You may help students quantify, for instance. It's what we say as a undercommit language. We tell them, we can encourage them to undercommit. It's easier to shift back rather than they say, for instance, you can tell them to say that, oh, I might change my mind later, but right now I'm thinking this is the answer. You can encourage students to say that versus I think the answer is this, and then you say it is not. So you encourage students to use that kind of line in your class. It's what we say as giving students an out up front, and then of course create opportunities to fulfill esteem needs. All right. So when if you're not seeing opportunities, you can create them. All right, which means, I think we have plenty of opportunities, especially if you are a teacher who's always trying to create participation in class. That means you're creating plenty of opportunities. All right, so you can bring the students to attention to get them to contribute towards the class, and then you can recognize an example of one or more students who are impacted more positively by something their peers said. So if they are positively impacted by what their peers said, you want to bring it to everybody's attention. All right, so soliciting opportunities and labeling them is a solid pairing way of fulfilling esteem needs. Okay, get peer comments, like get an answer, get someone to give a positive comments, or you can label them as positive comments. So these are what you see on the screen is some of the examples. I'll send these slides to you guys, so don't worry about taking notes. So these are just some examples on how you can narrate, a way to solicit or narrate when examples occur. It's like when Jordan says, for example, how did Jordan explanation help you understand? I can see some of you nod. If a student did give like completely wrong answer, right? But you can point out to say that, oh, I used to think this is the same answer as well. And the student then comes onto the same page with you like, okay, this is what people think, and I'm not entirely wrong. You are not lowering their social status in class. All right, so this is some examples here which you can read. The author's name at the bottom, so none of this is from me. I'm not taking credit, there's the author's name at the bottom. And of course, the last tip to fulfill esteem needs is compliment board. Okay, compliment board. I think some of our teachers are already doing that. Like I know Miss Shanti is doing it in her class. She gives out these little stars and stickers in her class on the board. So that's a compliment board. Of course, it has a little bit of an element. The stars has a little bit of competitive element to it. A compliment board, not necessarily. It's just a board of compliment. You can get peers to take time to, your friend gave a correct answer, you may want to encourage it, say something nice about it. So classroom cultures and structures can be used to encourage ways to support positive peer interaction, and this will fulfill esteem needs. Okay, so if you can plan ways to fulfill the students of the esteem needs of your students, the result will be quicker and stronger than for you to wait for them to happen organically. Okay, so they do happen organically in some classes, but if you can plan for it, then your result will be quicker and stronger in that sense. Okay, so these are some examples. Providing prompts. See, for example, that video I showed you, that case study, right? Instead of the teacher turning away to another student and say, okay, can someone help this? It actually doesn't help the student's esteem because you took away the opportunity for success. Instead, there's a technique that I know some teachers use, is a phone out technique. A phone out technique is like that Who Wants to Be a Millionaire show. I don't know if you guys have watched it. You can call for help, right? So you create that system, which means you can get this student who's unable to answer right to ask for a peer in a class to give a tip, or give me a tip, and then the student using the tip will try to answer. Research has proven that when that happens, this student will gain from the success compared to another student giving the complete answer. All right, so I know it's very tricky, but I think it's worth a try. In fact, I'm going to try it with my students. I haven't tried that, but I'm going to try that technique. All right, phone-in technique. Like you can pick someone to give you a tip, and then you develop the answer from the tip. All right, or you can, as a teacher, can function in that point. But if you want them to create respect within the classmates, that's one technique that works. Okay, I'm going to skip this part as well. This is where you guys are supposed to throw in some ideas to improve student esteem. Maybe you can scan this and it's a Padlet. It will take you to Padlet. Take your time, maybe today, tomorrow. If you get ideas on how to improve student esteem, can you put it on the Padlet? I'll keep the Padlet active for the whole week. My future sessions, I will share some of your ideas. Okay, so some of your ideas I'll share. And the Padlet result, I'll download it and I'll send it to you together with my slide. So you don't have to do it now. Just scan this QR code and keep it with you. Or I'll, when I send you the slide, also you'll have this QR code. Scan it, go to the Padlet and post your own ideas as you think about this topic and you reflect upon it. Please do share if you have some really nice ideas. I would love to hear them, and I will share it with whoever future audiences that I may have. And I'll quote you, don't worry. I'll quote you to say that this is the teacher from our school. You can, of course, with your comments on your Padlet, you can put your name to it. This Padlet, particular Padlet that I've created, I've allowed you can like someone's idea, either like or upvoting, because I had two Padlets for this session. One of it is upvoting. I think is the experience is upvoting. Yeah, the experiences I had upvoting, but let's not do that. It's okay. This one, if you read another colleague's idea, please like it. The more likes this person is going to get, which means more of you agree that the idea is worth giving a shot. It's something that you want to try. No compulsion, yeah. So you can do this if you would like to contribute to this, because I want this to be a collective growing idea from teachers, and as I carry it with me for years to come, as I share with more teachers, I hope for it to grow into a better database of ideas that can help improve student esteem. All right, okay, so that's it from me. Thank you so much. I hope it was an hour, exactly an hour. There's a timer here, shows the 1 hour 2 minutes that I've talked, and thanks for participation from everyone. If you have no questions, then I think we can